Magandang araw po mga kaibigan. I hope everyone's safe and sound sa unang araw ng Enhanced Community Quarantine.
Ito na.
Maganda pong pag-usapan ang ilang issue na may kinalaman sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay. Alam naman natin na mahalaga ang kuryente, ang tubig at ang transportasyon. Let's talk about electricity in the Philippines. How are we doing today? And we're happy na makasama ang knowledgeable people in the industry because I'd like to listen to what they have to say about the Philippine Development Plan na may kinalaman sa energy. How are we responding to the growing economy? Whether we like it or not, ang sabi nga, pag mayroong ganitong crisis, after the crisis would come an improvement. As they say, bluntly, once you hit rock bottom, there's no other way but up. But today, we're happy to have with us Undersecretary of the Department of Energy. We have with us Undersecretary Emmanuel Juaneza. We're also joined by Commissioner Rexy B. Digal of the Energy Regulatory Commission. And all the way from Albay is another good friend, Attorney Oliver O. Olaybal. He's a consumer advocate, and he was once a guest of our Wednesday roundtable when we talked about the APEC experience in Albay. We're not talking of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. We're talking of a subsidiary of San Miguel Corporation who took over the Albay Electric Cooperative some years ago. So let's start our discussions today, and we will be introducing our other guests. We have with us DOE Director Marasigan, and we have our Energy Beat reporters with us today. So let's start with the good Undersecretary to tell us ano po ba ang sitwasyon ng ating enerhiya. Magandang araw po, Mr. Undersecretary. Mr. Undersecretary, yes, good afternoon, and thank you for spending time with us today. Tell us more about our energy conditions or situation in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Mel Laconia, and to all the participants of this coffee chat. With regards to the energy situation in the country, certainly we are guided by our Philippine Energy Plan, where we have a projected forecast of energy requirement from 2020 up to 2040. And based on that, the energy required on the succeeding years from today were all based on calculations of our growth in economy and populations, based on data from the NEDA. And when it was actually originally calculated or plotted, we did not yet have COVID in consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the update from your end. From Attorney Rexy Digal of the Energy Regulatory Commission, good afternoon and welcome. Attorney, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Sir Melo. Good afternoon to everyone.
How is the ERC today? It's been said that electricity in the Philippines seems to be the second highest next to Japan. Is this true?
If we will be basing it, what we have on data now is, I think, 2019 data. Yes, for 2019 data, I think our rank is at third, at least in the Southeast Asia. But with regard to the rate, what we have been trying to at least make people understand is that our rates cannot be at least accurately compared to other countries, for the reason that the rates will be affected by the laws being implemented in the country and also by the mechanism used to determine the rates. What we have seen as somewhat item that is not present in our rates, which is present in those countries wherein we are being compared, is there is a subsidy in those rates to which we are being compared, and we are said to be higher than them. And also, there is also a different setup. Our energy sector now is completely unbundled, segregated per sector. Other countries may not have that. Other countries still have subsidies on their fuel. Their government still gives subsidies for distribution charges. Ours do not. So maybe it will not be that accurate to say that we are ranking as the highest because the situation is different. The situation varies per country. We would have to consider the mechanism on how rates are determined. And for us, ERC, it has been determined by EPIRA. We are supposed to set rates that allow recovery of reasonably and prudently incurred costs and some reasonable return. But in other countries, we are also saying that there is no tax at all on their electricity bill. But in our country, there is a 12% VAT on distribution. There is also some tax for generation, except if you are a renewable energy. So, Sir Melo, that's just what we want people to understand, that our rates are set under existing laws and regulations, and it is the URC who makes sure that our rates being recovered from customers are those only allowed by law to be passed on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I will have some questions for you a bit later. Attorney Oliver Olaibal in Albay, how are things going? Yes, attorney. Paki-unmute lang. All right.
Yes,
Yes.
well, good afternoon to everybody.
Yes. How are things going in Albay?
I have 4 talking points to raise. Number 1, the Philippine Energy Plan is linear planning. It does not provide for fallback position in the event there will be a problem as to the supply of oil. For instance, everybody around 197 countries signed the Paris Agreement. 3 quarrelsome nations did not sign. They are Iran, Iraq, and Libya. Supposing they make trouble and there will be embargo. If there will be embargo, there will be shortage in the supply of oil. That is not provided for in the Philippine Energy Plan. Now, number 2, there are environmental implications that could accelerate possible hostile action from other countries. For instance, the the implementation of the Paris Accord could lead to hostile action from other countries, and which could lead to the acceleration of the implementation of the climate change accord. If that happens, what does the PEP provide as fallback position? And on the health issue, there are frozen areas in our environment that are now thawing because of climate change. Now, the thawing of these areas could lead to the release of deadlier microbes, bacteria, or viruses. Now, there may be a need to revise the EPIRA because of the failure of competition to reduce the cost of electricity. We have to remember that the EPIRA was created to create competition and competition was intended to reduce the cost of power.
Yes. All right.
So I think one more, there may be a need to nationalize power distribution to prepare the country for the admission of factories that are leaving China. This was done already by India and Bangladesh, but the Philippines has not initiated any move to prepare the country to locate factories that are leaving China. Now, how could we provide efficient power supply if the cooperatives are inefficient and for lack of economies of scale? I think the government cannot exact minimum pricing for electricity, citing Aleco as an example.
Yeah. Very famous talaga yung ating Albay Electric Cooperative. What used to be Aleco. But anyway, Mr. Undersecretary, doon po sa ating mga programa, yun po bang mga programa ng Department of Energy ay akma doon sa inaasahang pag-unlad ng ekonomiya after the pandemic? Doon sa sinasabi rin ng pamahalaan, we're on our way to recovery despite some headwinds. Pero tutugon ba yung mga programang inayos o inihanda ng Department of Energy sa mga susunod na panahon? Mr. Undersecretary, please.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Aconia. The answer is yes, because the Philippine Energy Plan assumptions and data considered in the calculations were based on situation or economic growth projected before the pandemic. So taking it into account, given also the projections provided to us by other government agencies like NEDA and DTI and BOI, and all those were collaborated in the calculation. Yeah, the answer is yes.
But how far have you gone or accomplished to address or to comply with the Philippine Development Plan?
Yeah, with regards to the Philippine Energy Plan, if that's our point, there are several components taken into consideration as to our energy mix, whereby we are very conscious on the volatility of fossil fuel supply. For example, our diesel bunkers and the LNG, and that's why the government, especially our department, has really looked into renewable energy sources, where we have opened our grounds for geothermal investors and hydro resources development, and everybody's aware of the onshore wind farms, the solar farms, and the offshore wind potential is actually on the go, because we have already awarded service contracts for offshore wind development, Mr. Aconia. So we are looking at the conventional power plants like coal, etc., and fuel-fired plants. We have, in context, looking at 2030, the energy mix. We will be looking at 35% renewable energy component of the energy mix, and 2040, barring any hurdles, we're looking at there are 50% of renewable energy mix by 2040, Mr. Aconia.
It's very encouraging. In as much as I also write for Asia Pacific Daily, which is a Chinese news agency, I'd like to find out what are the prospects of the joint exploration program between Philippine and Chinese companies. Would you care to update us? This is of prime interest to my colleagues at the Foreign Correspondents Association of the Philippines. Mr. Undersecretary.
Thank you, Mr. Acuna, for that question. I would like to refer that question to our bureau involved in the oil exploration. Do we have somebody from our oil industry department?
Yes.
Yusek, wala po tayong rep from oil from ERDB.
Wala tayong okay. I would, not like to really discuss on that matter, Mr. Aconya. That's another viewer. I'm sorry, that I was confined to the power industry
Okay.
bureau only, Mr. Aconya. I apologize for that.
It's
I
all
do
right.
not like to comment on that. Thank you.
It's all right, Mr. Undersecretary, if it is not within your province, but that's okay. No problem. Attorney Digal, I have to ask you this because I've been listening to the chambers of commerce. In fact, some members of the joint foreign chambers of commerce, they've raised the issue that electric rates in the Philippines may not encourage investors to take a long, hard look or serious look at the Philippines because whether they like it or not, the cost of production would be high if we have a different way of charging companies different rates compared to other Asian countries. Would you care to comment on this, Attorney?
When it comes to the viability of our current electricity rates for industries, there are a lot of programs available for them so that they could avail of lower rates. We have the retail competition and open access program, wherein you just have to meet a certain threshold for 1 year, and then you can go choose your own retail electricity suppliers. And in this regard, we have seen really a lowering of the rates because if a captive customer would generally have like 6 pesos for generation, this retail electricity supplier sometimes could get it at 3 pesos because of competition in the retail sector. So I think that's one way that we can still be considered as a viable option for the industries who intend to come to the Philippines. There is retail competition that makes electricity rates in some sector, the contestable market, lower than what is being offered to the captive market.
Mm-hmm. Attorney, with your indulgence, you mentioned industries can avail of cheaper rates. All right. But chances are the cheaper rates may not necessarily equate with dependable service. What do you have to say about this?
If ever that the retail electricity supplier that these industries will not be able to give them reliable power, they are not without options to go seek for another power supplier. There are a lot of retail electricity suppliers, and I think there is very good competition already at the retail level, and this will assure that people who get to this business will make sure that they have reliable power to offer to their consumers. Otherwise, they will just go to another RES.
Mm-hmm. But in areas like Albay, we just don't have any choice, right? Attorney Olaibal.
Yes, Melo.
We don't have any choice, right? The good commissioner said if they're inefficient, unreliable, we can rely on other sources of power. But in cases of the Albayanos experience, we're confined to APEC, right?
Yes, yes.
So
Um,
what will happen to
I think
us?
we need the understanding of ERC. There have been complaints emailed to ERC, and maybe ERC should dispatch a fact-finding team to Legazpi City to really enable ERC to know what is the situation on site.
Mhm.
Imagine, I think the June billings tripled, some billings quadrupled the bills for May.
Mhm.
So we are being offered the reason by the management of APEC to the effect that what they did was just to pass on increment to the existing rates. And the consumers maintain that they cannot just pass on rates without approval from ERC.
Mhm.
So maybe ERC should investigate the matter
Okay,
on site.
on site. Yes, Attorney Rexy, your
Yes,
reaction, please.
yes, if I may be allowed, Mr.
Please.
Acuna. First, on the Aleco APEC situation now, I think the commission is already on board with regard to finding a solution to the problem. We have just conducted a meeting with them, both of them, Aleco and APEC, last July 27. And as to the rates being passed on, we may have to distinguish between the distribution rate and the other pass-on charges. The distribution rates, the one being charged by the electric cooperative or the distribution utility, is regulated by ERC, and yes, they cannot pass it on without it being approved by us. And for our record, the distribution utility in Albay is still charging the same DSM rate that we have approved for them during the RSEC-WR time. However, when it comes to the pass-on charges, yung pong mga generation charge at saka transmission charge, they are able to pass it on or adjust it monthly because there is already a formula approved by the commission for those charges on how to compute that and how to pass it on to consumers. However, these charges are not without any scrutiny from the commission. There is what we call now a post-verification process or confirmation process for these charges. If ever the distribution utility has charged more than what it should have charged after us checking the calculation, then of course a refund will be in order for the
Sugalan!
Oops, excuse me. Meron pumasok na unidentified object. you were saying, yes, Attorney Rexy?
Yung po siguro as a last item on that Aleco APEC, we are knowledgeable of the problems of the consumers in Albay, and we have an undergoing proceedings for that under our consumer affairs service. And Aleco and APEC are both involved in that proceedings together, I think, with other consumer groups po.
Okay. Attorney Olaibal, reaction before I introduce another resource person, this time from NEA?
Yes,
Yes,
just 2 points, Melo, please.
yes, please.
The first point is, I think the good commissioner has talked to some impostors in Aleco. Because the concession agreement signed by Bishop Bailon with the San Miguel Group provided section 7.2, paragraph 7.2, creating residual Aleco. Maybe ERC is talking with residual Aleco created by Bishop Bailon and the San Miguel Group. Well, nobody can create residual Aleco. Aleco is Aleco. If it goes by any other name, then that is not Aleco. That is the creation of NEA, the group of Bishop Bailon and the San Miguel Group, under paragraph 7.2 of the concession agreement. Now, if the good commissioner will talk to us, consumers, maybe we could explain the problems raised by the APEC management. The APEC management has passed on charges without ERC approval. And they were claiming that APEC is sourcing power exclusively from WESM, which is not proper because only a portion of the power source is to be sourced from WESM under the IPIRA. Now, there was an explanation by Congressman Salceda to the effect that he was able to obtain a certificate of exemption from Secretary Cusi of DOE. Nonetheless, there was a misunderstanding on that certificate of exemption because that exemption applies or dispenses only with public bidding. The public bidding is to determine who is the lowest bidder. And the lowest bidder shall become the supplier of choice on the part of the management. Now, Secretary Cusi issued the certificate of exemption in the name of Aleco, not APEC. So that's one problem. How could APEC enter into contract with a supplier of its choice when the exemption was issued by Secretary Cusi in the name of Aleco? Now, after a contract is entered into by Aleco, then the contract will not be a power supply agreement. It will be an emergency power supply agreement. And the power supply agreement will be submitted to ERC for approval. That has not taken place yet. In other words, the alleged pass-on process is only a justification made by the management of APEC to mislead ERC. So that's the situation, Melo. I hope ERC will find time to talk to the consumers and not to the impostors within APEC.
Okay.
They created residual Aleco.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well taken. Attorney Rexy, short rejoinder, please.
I think during that time we were talking to Roy M. Cometa, who is a board president, but definitely Mr. Olaybal is concerned that we at least take the
Consumer side.
get the input from the will be done by ERC. I think the proceedings are public and we may invite some consumers for.
Good. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce another member of the panel from the National Electrification Administration. Very interesting yung kanyang position. I'm referring to Director Ana Rosa Donato Papa. Yung po kanyang tanggapan, nandun sa Office for Performance Assessment and Special Studies. So, I'd like to welcome the good director. Director, magandang araw po sa inyo and welcome to the discussions. Tell us, ano po yung assessment ninyo ng ating mga electric cooperatives so far? How are they doing?
Yes, sir. Magandang hapon din po sa inyong lahat. Magandang hapon, Sir Melo, Mr. Melo.
It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Opo. Ang aking pong department ay nag-evaluate annually ng mga operations ng electric cooperatives if they are doing well. So out of 121, sir, 103 ang good performing EC, and out of 103, ang outstanding performers po ay 85. So ECs are doing well naman po. There are remaining 7 ECs we call ailing. Ito po yung nasa ARM and 3 po sa Luzon.
Opo.
Yun po.
Kung hindi po maganda yung performance, ano po kaya ang dahilan?
Ang usual pong dahilan ay yung governance. Kaya po ang NEA ay nagkakaroon ng mga intervention po sa mga electric cooperatives, kagaya ng nagpapadala po kami ng acting general manager or project supervisor. Yun po ang isang ginagawa ng NEA, and then we submit them to performance plan para makita po namin kung may improvement o hindi ang electric cooperatives. So nung nagsimula po ang administrasyon ni Administrator Masungsong, 12 po sila, at ngayon po ay 7 na lamang. Kaya marami na po ang nag-improve ng mga electric cooperatives.
Opo. Maganda po ang inyong update. Pero yung po bang mga hindi maganda ang performance, ito po ba yung may problema sa pananalapi at pakikialam ng mga politiko? Ganun po ba?
Opo, isa po yun, yung pakikialam ng mga politiko, isa po yun. At usually nga po doon sa tinatawag nating arm area po, yung sa Mindanao, sir. Kagaya po ng Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, ganyan. Opo, Basilan.
Dito
Opo,
po
sir.
kaya sa ibang bahagi, aside from Mindanao, sa Luzon, sa Visayas?
Opo, meron po tayong 3 co-op sa Luzon. Sa Bisaya po wala. They are all good performing. Isip nag-improve na po ang kalang operation. Dito po sa Luzon may natitira na po tayong 3, yung Abra na nagkaroon na rin po ng intervention ng NEA doon and is improving na po. Yung Tikaw Island Electric Cooperative na dati pong category D, naging C na po siya. At yung pong Albay, talagang malaki po ang problema ng NEA doon. Kasi bukod sa political intervention, ay meron pa pong problema sa governance. At saka po, kaya pinahandle po yun sa private sector participation. Yan, sir.
Pero doon po sa karanasan sa Albay, would you say that pag pumasok na yung pribadong sektor, gaganda ang serbisyo, magiging financially viable ang pagpapatakbo nito?
Yun po ang aming, kaya po pinapasok yung mga private sector na yan, yung APEC ang tawag, Albay Power Electric,
Opo.
ay para po gumanda sana ang kanilang operasyon at makabawi sila financially. At binigyan po sila ng ilang taon para mag-operate doon, pero sa tagal po ay parang walang nangyayari. So tinitingnan na po ng NEA kung ano ang pwedeng gawin doon. Pero
Opo.
wala pa pong final decision.
Kailan po kaya magkakaroon ng desisyon? Dahil mukhang
Ay,
isang problema ron, yung inconvenience ng consumers at
yes.
ng business sector.
Alam po ng NEA yun, sir, kaya po kami tinitingnan din po yun namin. So, opo.
Okay. So, nababantayan nyo naman pala. Mabuti po.
Nababantayan naman po, sir. Nabago na rin po yung mga distribution system nila, pero may mga problema pa po na
Malaki.
malaki pa rin po. Dahil malaki po yung utang nila, alam po eh.
Yun na nga po ang isang hindi ko malaman. Ako po consumer ng Aleco bago ako nagtrabaho sa Maynila. Natatandaan ko, kami naman nagbabayad ng maayos, pero
Yes, sir.
laging napuputulan ng National Power Corporation sapagkat hindi raw nakakabayad on time. Nakita po ba ninyo kung anong mga dahilan nito? And would you also say that such experiences may not necessarily augur with the ideals of NEA and the Department of Energy dahil hindi nakakasunod sa standards eh?
Opo, totoo po yan. Hindi po sila nakakasunod sa standard. Ang isa po namin nakikita yung sa governance kasi, sir, alam naman po natin na mayroong mga good paying kagaya ninyo, sir. Pero meron namang ibang, hindi ko naman nila lahat, pero meron pang pong nagnanakaw din ng kuryente. At yun ay part ng kanilang, ng governance po ng management ng Aleco.
Okay.
Alam po natin yung problema ngayon. At saka, siyempre, marami rin politiko na nag-i-intervention sa kanila, sir.
Opo.
Isa pa po yun.
Natatandaan ko noon ang isang sakit ng Albay Electric Cooperative bagamat hindi nakakabayad, hindi napuputulan sapagkat ang sabi, paano mo puputulan? kampo ng PCI-NP yung hindi nakakabayad.
Ayun po, hindi. No comment po. Pasensya na, sir. Cannot answer.
Kada 90 yun. Attorney,
Yes, sir.
nakabantay naman pala ang NEA sa mga electric
Opo, alam po naman namin ang mga problema ng mga co-op at
Okay.
tinitingnan po yun.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Attorney Olival, your reaction please.
Mukhang hindi tama ang observation ni Madam Ana Rosa.
Yes, sir.
NEA.
Ako po ba?
Kasi dapat hindi ninyo ibinigay sa grupo ni Ramon ang management ng Aleco. Kasi alam naman ninyo na ang charter ng NEA is PD 269. Nakalagay sa section 36 ng PD 269, bawal bawal ibenta, bawal ipamigay ang assets ng kooperatiba kasi ililiquidate yun by 2041 pag expire ng franchise ng Aleco. Ano pang ililiquidate? Nandun na sa
Sir,
kay Ramon ang...
Opo. As far as I know, sir, totoo po, nasa PD 269. Pero ano po, hindi po makaano ang NEA dyan dahil ang mga member consumer ang nagkaroon ng resolution na pumasok sila sa private participation, sir. And alam niyo naman po, ang MCOs or member consumer owners, siya po ang may-ari ng electric cooperative as a cooperative.
Another pong mali yun ng NEA. Kasi yung Kongreso gumawa ng bagong batas, RA 10,531, approved
Yes, sir.
on May 7, 2013. Nakalagay doon, nag-insert ng Section 4B sa PD 269. Yung mga kooperatiba na walang kapital, pwedeng mag-raise ng bagong kapital through stock issuance. Ang problema, yung NEA Board of Administrators, headed by Secretary Pitilla, kinontra yung batas. Nag-issue ng IRR, nagdagdag ng 7 modalities na concession agreement, etc. Wala namang kinalaman yun sa stock issuance. Ang ibig sabihin, why will NEA allow a contradictory IRR that is frustrating the law? The law is clear. Hindi na uutang sa bangko. Walang porsyento, no cost. If we raise 5 billion pesos, we can do that through stock issuance. And that is according to law. Bakit kinontra ni Secretary Pitilla nag-issue ng IRR na parang hindi sang-ayon sa batas? Meron ng batas nandun na yung rehabilitation plan. Issue shares of stock, no cost, no interest. Now, why will NEA contradict the law?
Okay.
Sir,
Question, yeah.
wala po ako sa position to answer that kasi panahon pa po ni Secretary Pitilla po yun at saka siguro po yung legal namin ang pwedeng sumagot doon.
Okay.
Pero
Sige
kasi
po.
doon po ako sa ibang department.
Yeah, well taken po yun, Director
Yes.
Papa. Thank you.
Yes,
Sandali
sir.
lang.
Thank you din po.
We also have with us Director Mario Marasigan, Director for Renewable Energies, if I'm not mistaken. Director, how far have we gone to encourage renewable energy in the Philippines? Yes, Director?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Lacuna. Unfortunately, hindi na po ako sa Renewable Energy Management Bureau. I'm supporting Undersecretary Juaneza
Okay.
in handling the Electric Power Industry Management Bureau.
Oh, okay, good. Very well. Yun ang nakita ko kasing assignment mo. Kaya sabi ko, teka muna, renewable. Okay.
I used to, sir. I used to.
Yeah,
And I think I had some engagement with you before when I was still handling renewable energy.
Yes, okay. I do recall. Anyway, sa inyong pagsusuri, sa pagtulong ninyo kay Undersecretary Manny, what have you noticed in our electric cooperatives? What have you noticed? Are we going forward? Are we going backward? More of the same? Ano po ba?
Thank you very much po for the question, Mr. Mel. No? But as presented by NEA, marami naman po tayong good electric cooperatives. And in fact, some of them excels. But of course, with 121 of them, ang liit naman sigurong percentage ng ating mga ailing or let's say, those electric cooperatives that are observing below par. Sabihin natin na nagiging problematic yan because the synergy is not only between the government and the electric cooperatives, but the synergy with the consumers themselves. Hindi maliwanag, hindi klaro kung paano talaga nag-ooperate ang isang electric cooperative, especially kung meron tayong third party na nakasama. So dapat siguro po mas maliwanag at mas klarong impormasyon ang binibigay natin sa ating member consumer. Alam po natin na ang pinaka mahalaga para tumakbo ng maayos ang ating distribution utility ay nasa collection ng payment. So any percentage po ng payment, especially po kung ito ay isang electric cooperative, na alam naman po natin na ang electric cooperative ay wala yan sa industriya ng pagkita. Member consumer ownership ang concept po niyan. So kung merong isang membro na hindi nagbabayad ng kuryente, walang magbabayad na iba nun para sa kanila. Walang ibang magsusuporta. At ang electric cooperative, mahihirapan din naman po na kumuha ng ibang suporta dahil wala silang tinatawag nating hindi sila allowed mag-invest sa ibang pamamaraan. Hindi allowed ng kanilang charter. So ang talagang tunay na takbo ng electric kooperatiba ay nasa synergy ng gobyerno, ng ating electric cooperative at especially ng ating member consumer owners. Kung isa po doon ay magmintis, sigurado po, magmimintis na talaga yung operation ng ating electric cooperatives. Yun lang po, Mr. Mel. Thank you very much po.
Maganda po yung insights ninyo. Yun kung walang makikialam na politiko, walang balasubas na consumer, pardon the term, no? Baka baka sabihin unsavory yung term. Pero kung meron kang isang electric cooperatives at 103 magandang performance, mas maganda sigurong suriin natin ano yung pinakabuod na problema, bakit hindi sila nagpe-perform as expected, no?
Ang ayon po ako sa inyo, Mr. Melo, dahil tama po kayo. Kasi may rason din naman ang ating member consumers kung bakit hindi sila nagbabayad. Ito ba ay dahil sa hindi magandang serbisyo? Ito ba ay dahil sa influensya ng another party? Sabi nga nyo, napopolitika ba yan? Dahil yung po nabanggit nyo kanina na isa sa hindi nagbabayad ay government agency. Inaksyonan po yan ng Department of Energy sometime, if I remember it right, 2018 or 2019, wherein we wrote the Department of Energy. In-elevate namin yan, sinulatan natin yung ating mga concerned government agencies on the top level para po i-remind sila at pagpaliwanagin na meron naman kayong annual allocation, bakit hindi kayo nakakabayad?
Merong MOE, right?
Yes, tama po. So yun po yung ginawa po natin. At ang pagkakaintindi ko po doon, nagkaroon po yun ng magandang epekto. Nag-umpisa na pong makabayad. Ngunit hindi po natin maiiwasan. Sabi nyo nga, pardon for the use of the term,
may balasubas
whether
talaga.
it's doon sa may balasubas meron ho bang nadiderail yung idea? Kagaya po, meron tayong mga consumer na nagsasabi, sa amin naman kinukuha yung energy na yan, kami may-ari yan, ba't ako magbabayad? Dapat nga, ako pa ang benepisyohan yan. May mga ganun pong konsepto ang iba nating mga kapatid sa paggamit ng kuryente. Tandaan po natin, meron pong rules pagdating po doon sa system losses. Inaalaw po tayo niyan. Meron pong pwedeng i-charge sa consumer. Ngayon po, kung tumaas po yung system loss dahil marami yung hindi nagbabayad, saan po kukunin ng isang electric cooperative? Wala po silang ibang source of income. Hindi po kagaya ng isang private DU na meron po silang investment sa ibang, may mga affiliate company sila or investment in other sector. So pwede silang mag-add ng kanilang investment. Ang recovery nga lang is always subject to ERC's approval. Pero nandun po yung konsepto na pwedeng may pagkunan. Samantalang ang isang electric cooperative, ang kaagapay po nila ay ang DOE at ang National Electrification Administration lang. So, yun lang po ang tumutulong sa ating mga electric cooperative. So, binubuhay natin, binibigyan natin ng ayuda, ngunit yung ayuda na yun ay nasa saad din po doon sa ating government rules and regulation. Hindi ho pwede puro grant. Dahil kagaya po, doon sa objective natin ng total electrification, yun ho bang mga underserved pa, yung wala pa talaga electricity services. Diyan po nagbibigay ang gobyerno ng ayuda. Meron pong programa ang NEA, meron po silang tinatawag ng Barangay Line Enhancement Program, at meron po silang Sitio Electrification Program. Samantalang ang Department of Energy naman, meron naman sila, kami po naman ay merong Total Electrification Plan. Yung lahat po ng pondo na inaalat ng gobyerno para dyan sa programa na yan, ipinamamahagi natin sa electric cooperative. Pero yan po ay para sa electrification, hindi po pwedeng gamitin na pansalo doon sa hindi nagbayad ng kuryente. At sa palagay ko po, yun ang malaking problema natin. Maraming salamat po.
Ano na po nangyari doon sa panukala na hiwa-hiwalayin yung grid? Katulad ng Bicol region, this may sound parochial. However, yung kuryente na nag-generate sa Tiwi at sa Bacon Manito, pumapasok pa sa isang grid bago bumalik sa Bicol region at iba na rin ang presyo. Ano po kaya iyon?
Ay sir, medyo may pagkakaiba tayo ng konsepto noon. Ano po? Ganito po. Sabihin po natin ang una, pagdating po sa resource development, sabihin po natin yung Bacon Manito generation at saka yung Tiwi. Bicol po yan lahat.
Opo.
Pag yan po ay sa Bicol lang ibinenta, sobra po yung capacity.
Of course.
At pag hindi po nagamit, tataas po yung presyo kasi kailangan bayaran mo yung buong capacity. Yun po yung rason kung bakit kailangan siyang ibenta sa labas. Pero ang ating pong local distribution, pag sila po ay nag-conduct ng kanilang competitive selection process, pwede pong gawin nila, nasabihin nila, kayong mga taga rito na local, dapat sumali kayo sa aming competitive selection process kasi may advantage kami sa inyo. Maliit ang connection namin, yung connection line namin sa inyo, kaya mas makakamura kami sa inyo. Yun po yung isa. So, hindi po pwedeng, kung malaki po yung generation, di po ibig sabihin nun para sa kanila lang. In fact, mas maganda po na nadidistribute natin kung saan tayo kumukuha dahil kung susundin lang po ng ating mga distribution utility yung competitive selection process na ito po ay inaprubahan ng Supreme Court. Baka ho ang lumabas makakuha tayo ng pinakamurang kuryente. Kasi alam po naman natin na pag hindi dumaan sa bidding ang pagbili natin ng kuryente, kalimitan po, mahal yan.
Okay.
So yun po yung guidance namin. Salamat po.
Thank you for the clarification. Attorney Olaibal, please.
Yes, Melo. Yung NEA at saka DOE, mukha yatang nakalimutan nila ang essence ng rural electrification. Ito ang pagkakaiba ng co-op sa Meralco. Pero yung Meralco, nag-sponsor ng special law, RA 7832, yung anti-pilferage law. That enabled the Meralco management in the co-op management to charge to the consumers the cost of pilferage. Kaya itong tungkol sa pilferage, huwag natin itong igiit sa mga consumers because there is a law that requires the consumers to contribute for the cost of pilferage. Hindi pa nangyayari yung pilferage, nagbayad ng consumers. Okay. Ngayon, saan kukuha ang management ng balanse? Kung meron ng balanse, meron mga tinatawag na non-power cost. Ang non-power cost, yung mga security deposit, meter deposit. May isang ospital, hindi binigyan ng kuryente hanggat nagbigay ng 4 million pesos as meter deposit. Meter deposit lang, 4 million pesos. Medyo abuso na yon ng management, ng APEC. Ngayon, will NEA and DOE agree to the proposition na we just abide by the law. Yung Section 4B of PD 269, i-implement lang natin yon. There will be money that will flow in. In Bicol Melo, 90% ng mga malls are boarded up. Yung mga, ang tawag doon, yung mga stalls, mga sarado.
Sarado
Mga
na.
sarado yun. May mga guests, whatever brand. Lahat ng mga stalls na yon sarado kasi walang buyers. But yung mga entrepreneurs, nandun pa rin. May kapital. In other words, they can invest in Aleco by purchasing shares of stock. At saka, hindi pwedeng pag-usapan na dahil sa pandemic, walang magbabayad. Pinuputulan nila ng kuryente, so magbabayad yung consumers. So,
Okay.
this is a surefire investment on the part of the entrepreneurs whose stalls are boarded up in the malls. Isi-shift
Okay.
lang yung investment. Ngayon, bakit ibinigay ng NEA at DOE ang Aleco sa grupo ni Ramon Ang? That's the very big question. Nandun yung Section 4B ng PD 269 authorizing the issuance of certificates of stock. Kung i-implement natin yon, ang daming dudumog maglalagay ng investment.
Okay.
We can raise as much as 10 billion pesos to fund the rehabilitation of the cooperative. Bakit ayaw nilang i-implement ang law? Yung sinasabi ni Director Papas,
Yung Papa.
Papas.
Oo.
Yung sinasabi niya na nandun si Director Paul Narvaez, si Director Roy Cometa, dalawa lang yun out of 9. Nasa bylaws ng Aleco, that should be 9 directors. Bakit magpapadala sila sa illegal na mga direktor? They are impostors because they do not even constitute a quorum to transact business.
Okay.
So, EA and ERC should not be dealing with them.
Okay. Okay.
Yan lang.
Yeah, thank you very much. From Manila Standard today, we have Elena May Flores. Elena, go ahead with your question. Let me look for you. Yes, Elena, go ahead with your question and open your camera, please. Yes, Elena, go ahead with the question. Wait, nawala si Elena. Yes, please, Elena. Lipat muna tayo kay Mirna Velasco ng Bulletin. Mirna, nice to see you. Go ahead with your question, please. Mirna.
Hello, yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, question kay Commissioner Digal.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Sino na yung mga GenCos na penalized ng ERC since in-announce ni Chair last week that penalty impositions will start this month?
As of now, wala pa kaming nalalabas na decision on the show cause orders that we issued with the GenCos, but we committed that within this month there will be resolution of some of those that we are complete with the evaluation within the month.
But so far, what have you seen as initial findings dun sa mga investigations that you've done?
I'm sorry, but I am not aware as of now of the initial findings because they will be presented to the commission this month.
Okay. So yung this month, kailan yung cut-off nyo dyan? End of the month pa?
Around the 3rd or 4th week.
Yeah. And any mandate regarding the ECQ from ERC? Especially sa mga DUs para walang bill shock or all the things that happened before nung may ECQ tayo?
To avoid the bill shock, we have an advisory telling the DUs to continue with the actual meter reading and requesting DUs that properly documented meter readers be allowed to enter the area wherein ECQ or MECQ is being implemented.
Yeah. Pero wala namang mandate na if ever, kasi si Meralco na no disconnection, pero ang bill payments, wala namang deferment na mandate ng ERC.
None so
Not at-
far.
Yeah. Melo, kay Yusek na lang, Juaneza, I also have a question. Sir?
Yes, please, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, may meeting daw kayo with NGCP and other stakeholders regarding the issues na binabato about power system issues like ancillary services. And then may mga questions or clarifications pa yata yung NGCP being sought from DOE. And GOMP, yung mga preventive maintenance ng power plants. And ano po yung preparation sa ginagawa ngayon when it comes to Malampaya shutdown sa October?
Yan. Undersecretary Juaneza, please.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Mel Acuña. Yeah, on the question of
Yun na.
on the question of ancillary services, yes, we have had a meeting 2 days ago with NGCP, with actually President Anthony Almeida, and issues as to clarification, and together with Commissioner Attorney Bingal, she was with us, and there were clarificatory points raised by NGCP, and those were clearly addressed by Secretary Pusi during that meeting, that they have to comply with the department circulars related thereto, and also on the procurement of ancillary services after the conversion of non-firm to firm, covered by our department circular of 2019, the department circular for the CSP of the remaining requirements for our reserve. We call it, regulating reserve, contingency reserve, and dispatchable reserve. All those that would not be covered in the conversion of firm to from non-firm to firm will undergo CSP, and we are looking at a reduced price in that manner, because it will be a competition process.
Okay.
Sir, mga ilang contracts yung hindi pwedeng i-convert from non-firm to firm that will go through CSP?
The figures or the number of contracts, we still have to validate and get confirmed figures from our NGCP along with our API-NB's records. I don't have the Mr. Acuña and Ms. Velasco. Is it Velasco?
Yes.
Together with Director Mario, perhaps we can provide the figure, Director Mar.
Director Mario, please.
To Ms. Velasco, Director Mar.
Director
Yes,
Mario.
thank you, Yusek Mani. Thank you, Sir Melo. So far po, since tama po yung nabanggit ni Yusek Mani, wala pa tayong complete figures kasi still under negotiation pa po. Ang information po namin nakuha sa NGCP is that most, if not all, are willing to convert their non-firm contracts to firm. So yun po yung indication. And NGCP has started the negotiation. But until such time po na ma-file nila yung mga nag-confirm with ERC for approval, hindi po tayo makakapag-finalize ng number. So process naman po yun. But soon that relative kasi doon sa question ni Ms. Mirna, what non-firm contracts can be subjected to the competitive selection process?
Yes, yeah.
So, ang understanding po namin is that hindi naman po kailangang i-subject sa competitive selection process yung negotiation from non-firm to firm unless mag-expire na yon, and then ma-promulgate ng DOE yung kanyang CSP process, then all procurements ng NGCP shall undergo CSP process. Yun po yung ating policy. Thank you.
I-clarify ko lang yung statement ni Yusek because he said that the goal is to reduce yung cost sa AS procurement. That kasi 'di ba conversion lang from non-firm to firm. For it to be reduced, that means mababago yung rates pag nag-convert sila from non-firm to firm.
If I may, Director Mar, I said the cost of ancillary services through CSP, we are looking at a reduced price.
So
It
it's
was
the
not.
CSP.
It was, yeah. It has to go to the CSP, but the negotiation process from non-firm to firm, there are existing rules issued by ERC, and that has to be followed. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Sir, last na lang po, may other question on Malampaya shutdown preparations this October.
Okay. Yusek, would you care to take the question about Malampaya?
Yes, thank you for that question. With regards to the upcoming Malampaya shutdown come October, the Department of Energy actually has already looked into getting, a alternative way of running those, especially the Ilihan power plant and other gas plants that are capable of running on fuel other than the natural gas. So we're looking hard on that because the directive of Secretary Cusi is we don't want to lose power supply from any of those generating plants using precisely the Malampaya gas.
Sir, last na lang related to that, yung cost impact po, because the last time that we had a 20-day shutdown, parang merong 9 billion na cost impact noon and pass on 3 times sa consumers, parang staggered yung increase because normally nag-shift niya ng fuel and at this point in time, $75 per barrel yung cost ng fuel that we will be shifting to. So tataas talaga yung rates. Ano yung contingency na nakikita nyo dyan kung tumaas yung rates because of the shutdown and shift to liquid fuel?
Yes, Yusek.
Okay, it's quite, the prediction that we have had when we talk about it, the consideration of cost was certainly above, was on the table. And we have not, we figure out getting, reserve of fuel, liquid fuel, like diesel for the plants that would run on diesel. And we also realize and we know that there's limitation as to the capacity that we can store, the duration of time, our storage capacity, what I'm saying, for the power stations that would utilize liquid fuel. So definitely the cost impact is there, and the strategy is to get all our other power plants firing on conventional fuel to be back online. And our expectation come to cuts, to cover the gap of power deficiency in the event the October Malampaya shutdown is carried out. And we're looking at like the power plant of Dinginan and other power stations that can provide power in case we lose the power plants fired on natural gas. That's the reason also that we are pushing for the ancillary services, because we're looking at having the reserve during the time in the Malampaya scheduled outage.
Sir, last na lang po, very quickly, what is the cost on the table that you are evaluating and penciling in at this point?
I don't have the cost estimate yet with me, considering that the increase of petroleum products has just been, realized or are been recognized a few days ago. So
and even yeah.
the bureau in charge for that, they're working on the figures as to the component of the increase.
Yeah. And even yung dollar, sir, di ba, tumataas din. So that will add to the cost impact as well. Tumaas siya ulit this week, yung value of the dollar.
Yes, yeah, it follows. So our oil management bureau is looking into all this mix of variables in terms of cost. But we don't have it yet on hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mirna, and nice to have you with us this afternoon. Danessa Rivera of Philippine Star. Danessa, your questions, please. Go ahead.
Hello,
Yes, please.
can you hear me? Yes.
Of course.
Yes, good afternoon po. For Yusek Juaneza or Director Marasigan, I would just like to ask about the updating of the Philippine Energy Plan. Where are we at the Philippine Energy, in the update of the PEP, and when do you hope to finish the revised PEP? And for my second question, is there any update on the IPSA of Meralco? That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. May I have your indulgence, Director Mar? Would you like to take that? Thank you.
Thank you. Director Mario, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for the question of Ms. Vanessa. I believe our Energy Planning and Policy Bureau is consolidating much of the input. We remain to target our submission to Congress as required by law by September this year. Mr. Melo, every September po kasi ang submission ng Department of Energy to Congress, particularly to the Joint Commission on Energy, nung ating Philippine Energy Plan. So annual po yung update natin. So we remain to be at target. Thank you.
Okay. Yung pong tungkol sa IPSA, may binanggit kasi.
IPSA po. IPSA of what?
Meralco.
Meralco IPSA. At the moment, can you clarify it, Mr. Lesa, which IPSA?
Hey, sir, yung yung pinapa-extend nila, sir. Yung sa Masinloc ba yun?
You mean humingi kasi sila sa amin ng nag-request sila sa amin na pwede bang yung former supply agreement nila with Masinloc to be continued. So, meron kaming sagot yan legally na because of the Supreme Court decision on various PPAs that were covered, no, ay hindi na pwede naapektuhan yung kanilang former IPSA, that while the procurement happened before the coverage of Supreme Court decision, yung authority to extend hindi na siya covered. So hindi na siya, sa tingin ng legal services namin, hindi siya pwedeng i-extend yung contract before. So yun yung as far as the contract. Ang second request nila doon is, how about the possibility of having a certificate of exemption for that purpose? So we are still deliberating on it kasi ang main reason nila for that ay combined na yung increase ng kanilang demand, particularly due to the health pandemic, dahil nagkaroon sila ng mga additional demands outside ng kanilang projection, particularly pertaining to itong mga hospital extensions, modular isolation facilities, vaccination storage facilities. So we have to validate that kasi otherwise, ang reason nila is going to the wholesale electricity spot market. So hindi pa kami tapos doon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Danessa. Next question from Alena of Philippine Star. Alena, please go ahead with your question.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Of course, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Sir, I'm from Manila Standard. I'm sorry. Just to clarify. Anyway, sir, regarding just a question on DOE, is it true that they're currently revising the rules on the CSP, and as study including DOE in the TP back, will this delay the CSP of NGCP or other pending CSPs? And also on the compliance of NGCP to the firm requirement for ancillary services, will this render moot and academic whatever the cases filed by DOE against them to the PCC? Thank you.
Undersecretary Manny.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And in terms of considering that the compliance of NGCP to the DC, and the question on whether it will render moot and academic yung naka-file na complaints tungkol dyan. Let's see that that's in the jurisdiction of our ERC to consider later whether the cases will be considered moot and academic. So I'll leave that Mr. Punya to the ERC. They will consider that perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rexy, your thoughts about it, your reaction?
Yes, sir. With regard to the compliance of NGCP on the department circular regarding the procurement of ancillary service, our legal team is likewise still reviewing the records, and at the same time, we have still some clarifications pending with I think we have something pending with DOE for clarification on the AS compliance. And the update would be, as of July 19, NGCP has filed a manifestation that out of the 36 contracts that are non-firm to be converted to firm, at least 28 of those are willing or ready to negotiate for the conversion. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. Let me go back to the problem. Isang problema, sabi, kaya raw mataas ang gasolina sa Pilipinas, dun sa taxes. I recall a Saudi minister years ago said, you keep on blaming us for high petroleum prices, but you also have to look into the taxes your respective governments levy on our products. I don't know about the thoughts of the ERC about this. Attorney Rexy, in times of crisis, would the ERC look into the possibility that we should or we ought to reduce tax and duties on petroleum products in the Philippines?
I think some petroleum products is under the jurisdiction of DOE. Ours is on the electricity po.
Okay. All right. So I'm barking at the wrong tree. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. From the Department of Energy, please. USEC Juaneza, please.
Thank you for that question on the cost of petroleum products, Mr. Mel Aponia. I would really, with your due indulgence, I would like to beg off from answering that question. As I mentioned earlier, it's not my bureau, so I cannot speak for them. I'm sorry, Mr. Mel. Thank you.
No problem, really. It's just a wild suggestion, Anyway, can we look forward? What can we expect? Attorney Oliver Olaibal, from your end, being a consumer, sa Bicol, ang term sa consumer ay konsumidor. Sa sarong konsumidor, what do you expect?
Exasperated consumer.
Yes. Is there a way out of this? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel, provided they don't lengthen the tunnel too much?
Actually, ang pag-asa natin, ERC. At saka yung ERC, meron silang pinag-circulate na parang Magna Carta of consumers.
Mhm.
Ang problema, hindi naman na-implement yun. I don't know why. Siguro, wala silang information drive. No one knows about this Magna Carta. We are organizing Albay Consumer Association precisely to disseminate this Magna Carta for the consumption of the consumers. Baka makatulong ang ERC, punduhan nila yung consumer organization para maka-disseminate yung Magna Carta. Kasi useless yung Magna Carta na hindi naman nagagamit.
Okay. Pero Attorney Olaibal, pwede bang sabihin kooperatiba yan? Magkano ba ang membership ng isang consumer to make it a cooperative really?
Actually, upon entrance, magbabayad ka ng 5 pesos. That makes you a member. Pero ang essence ng involvement ng consumer, yung patronage credit and patronage refund. Kasi sa Aleco, nire-require ng ERC ang consumer na magbayad ng 21.78 centavos per kilowatt hour. Yun ang monthly additional capital na binibigay ng consumer. Now, walang dividendo yon. Wala kahit ano. But you have to live for 50 years before you get your patronage refund. I mean, up to the time na nag-expire yung franchise. Siguro doon nagkamali si Vice President Emmanuel. Hindi niya naisip yung pragmatic point of view ng yung contribution na buwan-buwan 21.78 centavos. I don't think anyone could expect to live in the next 50 years.
That is understandable considering the threat of Delta variant, no? God forbid. Yeah, okay. So you're expecting something better. Should the ERC play its role? Right?
Pardon?
You're expecting
Pardon?
something better. Should the ERC do its role in pushing for the information campaign of the Magna Carta for consumers, right?
Yeah, yes. Kasi hindi maintindihan ng consumers kung ano ang rights nila eh. Up to now. Ngayon naman, siguro, a little subsidy from ERC for the dissemination drive. At saka yung ERC at NEA at DOE could possibly help us implement the law. The law is very simple. Raise rehabilitation funds by way of stock issuance. Yun lang. Yun ang kinontra ni Secretary Petilla.
For reasons still unknown. Okay, thank you. From the ERC, Commissioner Rexy, what can we expect?
Tungkol po dun sa pagpopondo, siguro po dapat din natin alalahanin na yun pong sariling budget ng ERC, dumadaan po yan sa Congress. Meron po kaming maliit na pondo para sa yung po tinatawag natin information dissemination na campaign. Yun din po, ginagamit din naman namin para nga maka-reach out sa mga consumer groups sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas. And alam po ng DOE yan, minsan nakikiride po kami sa kanila. Pag may forum or may event sila sa labas, minsan sumasama na kami to likewise at least present our Magna Carta and other issuances of the ERC po. And hindi po naman kami, hindi naman po kami, kaya naman po kaming ma-reach kahit po hindi sa mga forum or face-to-face. Kasi nga po, before the pandemic, meron po kaming isang email address na at saka hotline na doon po pwede kayong tumawag yung mga consumer na may reklamo. During the pandemic po, to address po yung deluge ng complaints kasi sobrang dami. 5 po yung email address na dinevise namin para po mas madali po namin matugunan yung mga consumer complaints. So meron po kaming Consumer Affairs Division, Consumer Affairs Service na siyang nakatalaga po para mag-handle ng complaints. Pwede niyo po kaming sulatan, i-email niyo po kami, tumawag po sa hotline para po matugunan namin kung ano po yung inyong hinaing tungkol po sa inyong electric cooperative.
Thank you
Thank
very much. Siguro po, Commissioner, mag-i-email din ako sa inyo para malaman ko kung sino yung mga top performers na electric cooperatives. We will give due recognition, we will mention them, pero hindi naman natin hihiyain yung may pagkabalasubas. Ano? No, we will not do that. But at least for our own information, and we can find out the possible reasons why. You know, during the time of the Local Government Academy and their Dr. Alex Brillantes, meron siyang Galing Pook Awards highlighting the success stories of LGUs. One of the constant winners at Hall of Famer na si naging chairman ninyo, Agnes VST Divanadera. So sabi ko kay Alex Brillantes noon, with your indulgence, please tell me, you've been highlighting success stories. Can you also highlight the failures in the LGUs? Sabi niya, bakit? Hindi, we should find out. Alamin natin bakit may failure para yun ang ating lutasin. So, ganun lang yung aking pananaw, kaya kailangan ko rin yung listahan ninyo. Thank you, Attorney Commissioner Digal. Yes, Director, you're about to say something. Director Mario Marasigan, please. Director?
No, sir. I just want to affirm po yung statement ni Congresi that DOE and ERC are always in partnership pagdating po sa information campaign. Thank you po.
Thank you. Yes, Director Ana Rosa Donato Papa from NEA. What can we expect from your good office?
May meeting.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. We continue our information dissemination, sir, through memorandum to the electric cooperative. On the consumer naman po, meron pong, before I proceed, sir, I want to acknowledge our Deputy Administrator on Technical Service, Deputy Administrator Artist Nikki Tortola, which is with me now.
Oh,
during this. Yes.
magandang hapon po. Magandang hapon po,
Opo.
Deputy Administrator.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Yeah, if I can ask him one question siguro, no? Deputy Administrator Tortola, with your indulgence, typhoon season na naman, hindi kaya at stake na naman yung viability ng electric cooperatives? Sa amin sa Albay, pag bumabagyo, sinasabi anong klaseng bagyo yan. Pag sinabing banana type, hanggang saging lang yan. Pero pag malakas yung bagyo, talagang buwan bago magkakuryente muli. Meron po ba kayong programa to assure consumers na NEA will be there to assist electric cooperatives?
Yep. Yes, Sir Melo. No? We are actually very much in contact with all the electric cooperatives all over the country. In fact, a week or two before, because DU is very, how do I call this?
They're very concerned.
Parating on time yung yung advisory nila regarding typhoons, regarding calamities. So with that information, we are actually informing the electric cooperatives immediately. And with the initial information, we are actually advising them to prepare for the calamities. Aside from that, yung program po natin sa mga electric cooperatives, we actually advise them and inform them to start already strengthening their distribution system. If it requires capital expenditure, andito naman si ERC, andito si NEA para tulungan na ma-establish yun, so long as the rehabilitation would not take too much interruption during the strengthening of the structures. Yan lang naman yung tinatanong natin kasi existing yung structures and system natin, paano natin mapapatibay yung system without incurring so much interruption. Yun naman yung importante. And during the calamities, andito po si Philreca na tumutulong din, and andito si NEA that we are actually activating din sa NEA our DRMD during emergency situations. At 24-hour tayo nagmo-monitor sa mga electric cooperatives na potentially affected during typhoon.
Opo, maraming salamat po. Pero wala ba kayong balak na yung mga posting gagamitin hindi na kahoy para hindi na mababali ng bagyo?
That's one of the the issues kasi there are types of structure that is intended malapit sa that is intended on a specific location. For example, if we are talking about structures na malapit sa dagat, usually yung magandang poste na gagamitin dyan, yung wood pole or yung concrete pole kasi hindi siya nasisira through corrosion. Yun yung problema natin. At pag gagamit tayo ng steel poles on malapit sa dagat, mas susceptible siya sa corrosion. So we still cannot do away on some areas on wood pole, but we could actually increase the capability of the structures to withstand stronger winds.
Okay. Thank you for the assurance. Wala na kayo nakikitang mga miyembro ng Pansit Gang, pero napokor na yun eh. Saka NGCP na yun eh. Wala na bang ganung mga complaints sa inyo, yung Pansit Gang?
So far naman, Sir Melo, wala naman po.
Wala na.
Ano
Okay.
ba yun?
Kaya raw maraming mga stainless na kawali at siyanse na nakikita dahil sa kagandahang loob ng gobyerno ng National Power Corporation ng araw. But anyway, thank you, Deputy Administrator, for your time. Undersecretary Manny Juaneza, your message to everyone, especially our audience and our colleagues from the media. Ano po ang inyong mensahe mula sa Department of Energy on behalf of our good friend, Secretary Alfonso G. Cusi? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Melo. First, I would like also to enjoin or put more emphasis. Nasabi ni DA Nikki Turtula, we are actually formulating a Build Back Better structure for our electric cooperative distribution system, and that's also including NGCP, and of course Meralco. So there is that program in the government, Build Back Better, meaning revisiting of the design requirements, where we are now looking at increasing the capacity of the column of the poles or the transmission system to withstand wind velocity of 300 kps.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So also the message from the DOE in behalf of Secretary Al Cusi, the Department of Energy, and of course ERC and NEA, NPC, and included yung electric cooperatives natin, and of course the NGCP. We are really looking together jointly and collaboratively na yung energy supply natin, given na naman itong itong ECQ, MECQ, requirements sa mga hospitals, at saka yung rainy seasons natin, bagyo-bagyo, especially yung sa area nga natin doon sa inyo sa Bicol region, kami doon sa Western Visayas, at saka yung Mindoro. Anyway, very serious tayo talaga sa pagtingin yan under the orchestration of Secretary Cusi, at saka yung power supply natin dito sa Luzon, yung supply available natin na supply, and 2 and onwards. So lahat yun na pinoproject namin ngayon. That's why yung mga meetings namin lahat with NGCP and the GenCos, the generating companies, to put together a sensible and doable plan para hindi maulit yung mga nangyari nung ito. So the overall is looking at also energy efficiency, na tayo sa mga consumers, tingnan din natin how can we save energy by being prudent sa gamit. So many things actually, Mr. Mel Aconya, and also we are pushing for the investors, attracting investors in the and put more power plants in anticipation increasing demand ng power, especially pag natapos na itong pandemic. Giving us the chance.
Meron po ba kayong announcement kung anong nakikita nyo sa ating energy supply sapagkat pagsapit ng Mayo, eleksyon na naman. Baka raw mag-brown out sa eleksyon. Wala kayong nakikitang ganon?
Sa initial 2 weeks ago, nag-usap kami nila NGCP at saka mga GenCos natin. And, especially sa summer and election period. Under the direction of Secretary Cusi, ang mando talaga ay zero power outage ang target natin. Not only during the 2022 but actually simula pa, especially yung after natin nagkaroon ng rotational brownout dito. So meron kaming ilalabas na DOE na advisory as early as this month, asking all the DOs, the GenCos to submit strategies nila na hindi na maulit itong nangyari pala sa nung Mayo, June. So they have to lay out strategies that it will not happen again. At the same time, yung mga power forced outages, yung mga plant maintenance, talagang pinapakumply na natin sila kasi existing yun na department circular na medyo nakaligtaan ng kaunti in the previous years, kaya nga nagkaroon tayo ng mga undesirable events nitong peak summer natin ng April, May, June. So thank you Mr. Mel.
Salamat po. Karangala po makasama kayo at nais kong pasalamatan si Tony Almodal for being patient na makipagbatuhan sa akin ng email to make this discussion possible. I'd like to thank all our panelists who took time out to be with us today. Salamat din sa mga taga-Legazpi City Sandigan Eagles Club na nag-request na magkaroon ng follow-up itong problema na dulot ng kakulangan ng kuryenteng maaasahan sa Albay. At yung inagrangay, yung problema ng mga negosyante at iba pa. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who took time out to be with us. Commissioner Rexy B. Digal, Undersecretary Emmanuel Juaneza, kasama rin si Deputy Administrator Artist Nikki Tortola, si Director Ana Rosa Donato Papa ng NEA, Director Mario Marasigan ng Department of Energy, and of course, si Attorney Oliver O. Olaibal ng Albay. Ito po ang inyong lingkod, si Melo Acuña, nagpapasalamat sa inyong pakikiisa. At yung ating mga kasama sa media, sina Danessa, sina Alena, at ganun din si Mirna. Pero let me end by citing a quote from Thomas Alva Edison. Ang sabi niya, "We will make electricity so cheap that only the rich will burn candles." Let's look forward to that. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. God bless us all. Till next time.